I'm Mark Sullivan.
I'm Delaila Lugo.
And I'm Jason Kwasnicki.
And we're here to reap the spoils. Quite literally and figuratively in this episode. Is that our theme song?
Yeah.
We have a theme song.
Indiana Jones. I was trying to be thematic.
That was Indiana Jones.
There
you go. You
You
gotta start off with like the most iconic motif.
But that's not how the song begins.
Who cares? No one ever hums.
You need to do the complete melody.
Maybe you do. Well, okay. So, yeah, the reason Jason is humming Indiana Jones is because we're focusing on a specific video game this episode. Who did I have introduce the game? Oh, Delilah.
Me.
I think I had. Okay, so Jason, what game are we talking about today?
We are talking about Uncharted, Drake's Fortune.
Yeah. So there's kind of a reason to him humming Indiana Jones. I mean, there is a reason. I don't know why he didn't fucking hum the Uncharted theme, but
Because the Indiana Jones is better.
That's true.
So this is a podcast where we pick one game and we just spoil it to all hell. We literally reap the spoils, just like Nathan Drake does in Uncharted. Goes in there, shoots some dudes, picks some treasure.
And he learned something.
And yes, he learned something.
I don't know what he learned in this one, but
he learned something not just about the situation, but about himself. Probably.
from small beginnings.
Yeah, greatness especially. So, yeah, if you haven't played Uncharted Drake's Fortune, I recommend that you pause this episode and you go play it right now. And then when you're done playing it, you can unpause the episode and listen to what we have to say about it and spoil the whole thing because I don't want your experience, the first experience with Uncharted, being listening to the three of us talk about it.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a lot more boring than playing the game. I hope we're not boring, but that's more boring than playing through Uncharted. So go play Uncharted if you haven't. If you have, you're in the right place because we're going to talk about it right after I give a history lesson.
Of all the shit that I'm about to give this game, like I always do every game because I'm a grumpy bastard, the one thing I will say is I really did enjoy watching the cutscenes. I just wish they lasted longer.
Yeah. Okay.
And Mark, you give your history lesson.
Okay, so here we go. I wish I had this is an audio podcast, so it wouldn't really matter, but I wish I had one of those little pointers. And I had a whiteboard behind me with graphs and charts and words and stuff. All right, so anyway, Uncharted Drake's Fortune was codenamed Big. Did you guys know that?
No.
I did not know that.
It's weird.
Yeah, right?
Are they going to make a game based on Tom Hanks becoming...
I got it.
I'd really like a video game adaptation of Big. You could make the whole dancing on the piano on the floor thing like a mini game.
It would just be like Ant-Man the game, kind of.
There would be multiple stages of bigness.
You could just switch between your child form on command.
Yeah.
That's basically Shazam.
That sounds like, well, yeah.
Oh, Shazam, yeah, even better.
Shazam would be a fun video game. Anyway, we're doing
we're talking way too much about movies in this fucking podcast.
We're supposed to be talking about Uncharted, guys.
It's 4 so far.
Huh?
4 movies so far.
Yeah. So yeah, the code name of the game was Big. Development started on Uncharted Drake's Fortune right after Jak 3's completion, which Jak 3 shipped in November 2004. Just to give some perspective.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But that's not to say this was the only thing they were working on after Jak 3, because remember they also did put out Jak X. But Uncharted, for Uncharted, they pulled together their most highly technical designers, writers, whatever, to put them to the task of making a new IP for the PlayStation 3 that would be more suitable for the PS3's hardware and capabilities. Which is kind of why they divided the teams, Jack X on one side, and then this new next gen new IP on the other. They were going for what they called stylized realism. Remember, like the PS3 generation, that was like the first HD gen. So with this, they wanted to opt in to use, instead of computer generated graphics, they wanted to utilize motion capture, more high budget, huge performances.
Nice.
And it was very inspired by something we've already kind of talked about. Pulp magazines, movie serials, and National Treasure and Indiana Jones.
Just like another movie, minus the Indiana Jones and National Treasure, Pulp Fiction.
That's 7 movies.
That's 7? Really? Oh yeah, because adding the National Treasure, yeah.
Delilah's gonna keep track of all the movies you talk about tonight. We're gonna mention another movie. She's just gonna whisper into the mic 8. So yeah, those were its influences. It was unveiled at E3 2006, and soon after its reveal, was given the nickname Dude Raider because of the very obvious comparison to Tomb Raider, but this not being Lara Croft and this being some jackass, they gave it the name Dude Raider. And the devs have also described influences coming, video game influences specifically, in terms of the gameplay, coming from Resident Evil 4, Kill Switch, and Gears of War, which...
I'd forgotten about Kill Switch.
I don't remember Kill Switch.
I remember it.
I mean, the Resident Evil 4 and Gears of War influences are pretty much on the walls. It's very, very obvious how they were influenced by those two games. We'll get to that when we talk about the gameplay. But when they were developing the characters and writing the scenarios, they really wanted Nate, the main character, Nathan Drake, to be sort of an everyman. He doesn't have much training. He's just kind of winging it, as opposed to Lara Croft's, more stylized and training and her experience. Whereas Nathan's just going into a situation and not sure when he's gonna die.
Hey man, he's exceptionally American, whereas Lara Croft is fucking British.
Is she British? I don't know a lot about Tomb Raider.
Yeah, she's a fucking Brit, isn't she?
Oh, maybe. Okay.
I think so.
No offense to the British audience.
It's all right. You already don't separate or don't
French and Japanese.
Yeah, don't
already.
ostracize our audiences too much. Yeah, you already insulted the French. Now you're insulting the British. God.
Fine, I'll call Nate a dirty American for the rest of the podcast.
All right, that's fine. So they were also they talked about adding the supporting characters. Characters we'll talk about: Elena, Sully, being added to avoid a dry story, and Amy Hennig, the lead writer on the project, who's also the lead writer on Uncharted, the lead writer in charge of Uncharted 2 and 3. She was actually helped considerably by some people we know pretty well, Neil Druckmann and Joshua Scher. The game went gold October 2007. PSN demo was released on November 8th, 2007, and the game was released November 19th, 2007. And we got it on PS4 with the Nathan Drake Collection, October 9th, 2015. Also, fun fact, this was one of the first games to get trophy support added after PlayStation announced and provided trophies to their video games.
Oh, cool.
Which was patched in after the fact. This game did not launch with trophies. So I found that out. And the timing matches up. I think trophies weren't introduced until 2008 sometime.
Right.
So it's not an OG. It's not legit.
I mean, it's one of the first to get it patched.
Yeah, but it wasn't the first to have it. There had to have been a game before it.
Oh well. I'm sorry, Jason. Does that bum you out?
It's not legit enough.
Okay. But that's pretty much the end of my history lesson. So
Bravo, I didn't know most of that.
yeah.
Except the release dates.
I didn't even know the release dates. I knew the release year, but
Yeah, exactly.
shall we dive in then?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So how I kind of want to format this episode, because the story of Uncharted, I feel like there's not much there to talk about, but what there
Right.
is to talk about, I mean, you understand what I mean.
Yes.
It's very much like, well, actually, there is something we should talk about that's not in the notes, and that's how the game opens up. I guess there is somewhat of a story there to speak to. The game opens up with a quote from Sir Francis Drake, and Nate and Elena are on a, what is that, like
Boat?
a fishing boat? What kind
Yeah.
It's
of
a
like?
skiff. It's a skiff.
Oh,
Oh.
a skiff. I'm so sorry, Jason.
Yes, I took 2 courses in naval military history in college.
Wow.
FYI.
It's a weird flex, but okay. They're on a skiff, and they pull out of the ocean the coffin of Sir Francis Drake and open it to reveal he wasn't dead in there. It was just a journal all along.
Mm-hmm.
And then pirates attack you, and then you fight them. So, like, I don't know. Here's a question. How did you guys feel about a lot of the opening scenes? Because one of the
Honestly,
things
they were just good for being a tutorial. Like, there was really no cutscene to, like, introduce much except for, like, weird banter between Elena and Nathan Drake.
and that's really what I mean. What I kind of want to go into. I felt the acting and the conversations in those first few scenes, on the skiff, in the plane with Sully, at the dock before they leave. A lot of them felt really unnatural and fake.
Right.
And I don't remember it being that bad or noticeable.
Exactly.
It fixes itself, I would say, after they're on the island already.
Yeah, it gets better, especially towards the end when like you're actually at the end in the supernatural shit and like things have reached critical mass. I feel like everything starts to flow a lot better, but by then you have like 5 minutes left to the game.
Yeah. I mean, I would say a lot sooner than that. Does the performances and the acting start to really come together? It's just those first few scenes where it felt really wooden and odd. I didn't, and I don't remember it being. I don't remember it being that way. So it was a
Yeah,
bit
me
of
either.
a
And
it was a bit of a slog to listen to all that again.
yeah, that just goes to show you how much the series has evolved. Because I didn't remember that either, and I think they were just trying to establish like, oh, these people are down to earth, and that's
Right.
it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess we could look at it as like a pilot episode of a television show. Very rarely is the pilot really, really great with really great performances and a really great plot. It's pretty much just to introduce you to kind of how these characters' personalities are and who they are as people. So I guess I could see it. I could see it that way and understand it. But as we go on, how did we come to like Drake as a person, as a character, as a protagonist? Fun little anecdote. Like for me, way back before I got into Uncharted, I tried the demo, and I almost didn't bother picking up the game because I had a lot of trouble getting through that first fight. Or not not that first fight, but one of the first fights in the demo, which the demo was pretty much just chapter 4 of the game. One of the fights was giving me a really hard time, but as they're on the plane, getting off the plane, just to escape to the island, I thought Nate was like the biggest douche,
Mm.
and I could not stand him.
I kind of felt like he was a blank slate. The only time I was ever interested in Nate was when he was going through historical information, giving the context to what they were going after. And that's just because
You're a
I'm
big history
interested.
nerd.
Yeah, exactly. In this, not in the series in general, but in this game in particular, he kind of felt to me like a blank slate almost. I didn't really pick up too much other than his, he did have somewhat of charisma about him with some one-liners here or there, but otherwise, I don't know. I didn't see much growth or anything.
That's what I was gonna say. I think he's more of a douche than a blank slate because, like I said, they tried to establish him as like down to earth with these like shitty one-liners and like, aha, there's a funny guy there. But other than that, like he wasn't like genuinely funny. He just that's how they wanted him to seem, like a charismatic, funny guy. And in hindsight, he's really not. But I did feel that way when I first played this game and carried that through the series. But replaying it again and going back, it's really like, wow, what? They didn't really do anything to make me feel like he was likable or memorable.
Well, you know who is likable, memorable, charismatic, funny, the whole 9 yards is Victor goddamn Sullivan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who, personally, my favorite character. Not because we share the same last name or anything. That totally has nothing to do with it at all. But he's a good companion character. In this game, there's a bit of a fake out that happens early in the story where your villains show up and go to shoot Drake, and Sully kind of takes the bullet, and you presume that he's dead. Later you find out that he's not, and what actually saved him was that journal.
Right.
Which, how lucky.
When I was first playing this game back in the day, I actually thought he was going to be the villain.
Oh.
Just all the ominous things he was saying when you're going to that island where the fuck was it? Was it
about
in
him?
Panama?
Well, he's got like lots of debt.
Oh,
and
yeah, when he
needed the
was
money
saying
and
like
everything.
I've got debt, and he's like saying, Drake, we really need to get a lot from this one and shit like that. I thought that when you came out of the U-boat, he was going to turn on you and there was going to be a bunch of guys and he was going to point a gun at you. Which I thought actually would have been interesting. I mean, I guess in terms of the long-term narrative, it worked out probably for the better that he was a character that stuck with you all the way through.
Absolutely.
And when you think about the other games, but yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Mark that this was the best character in the game, this particular game.
Yeah.
I agree.
He was really. I wouldn't say Elena didn't have a character. Elena did have a character, more so than Nathan at least. But Sully definitely had the most character and was the best developed.
Yeah, I think for its time, like Elena definitely stood out. Like for me as a woman, to see someone that was just kind of chill, not like a damsel in distress too much, was nice to see. And you knew there was going to be like a romance between them. That was pretty obvious from the beginning. But it was nice to see like not the typical romance that you see in the typical way that women are portrayed as like side characters in video games. So that was like refreshing even for its time, but she grew in the later series to be even better.
Yeah.
And as a woman, that's really important. That was really important for me to see at that time.
Right.
Yeah, like hers a love interest was developed or was established pretty early on, but she wasn't useless. And she did get herself into quite a many squabbles and situations, but she held her own. She also breaks Nate out of jail, which...
Yeah.
She has a grenade launcher with unlimited ammo when you're fucking on the Wave Runner.
Yeah. Just non-stop grenades. Not even like... hardly even having to reload the fucking thing. Just
yeah.
I hate I hate those sections of the game so much.
Oh, same.
Just because the controls for the Wave Runner are just awful.
Oh, we'll definitely talk about that later when we talk about difficulty.
Yeah. But
I got some shit to say on that front.
Infinite Grenade Launcher was definitely a plus. But in terms of Elena as a character, I didn't really feel the love interest arc that much. I wasn't convinced by the end of the game. Although I did like, her throughout the game. I liked her much more than Drake throughout the game. Um, and I especially liked at the end when she, is able to preserve he leaves that ring with Drake when they find Sir Francis Drake's body. And it turns out she picked it up and kept it, and at the end of the game, gives it back to Drake, which is
Yeah.
a nice little touch. She definitely is, as a side character, she's kind of that motivating friend slash, I guess in this case, lover. Although, again, I didn't feel convinced, but definitely,
That motivating,
again, I guess,
force.
yeah. Definitely, though, it seems here we're going a little bit back and forth between this game in particular and the series. I will say that by the end of the series, I definitely felt, that connection between the two of them. Obviously, by the fourth game, it's kind of central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do want to note that we are trying to just talk about Uncharted, Drake's Fortune, not the rest of the series. But that's really, it's going to be really hard to pull that
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
do our best. But it's really hard to pull that off in 2019 when we've gotten a full franchise.
We've literally played through the entire narrative up until, well, it's probably going to be the entire narrative of Nathan Drake.
Yes.
Let's not lie to ourselves. If they ever bring the franchise back, it will probably be.
Yeah.
Hey.
This is reap the spoils, man.
It's not reap the spoils for another game in the series, Jason.
Okay.
I might have to. I might just have to bleep that out. That's all. I won't cut it. I'll just bleep it or something.
All right.
If I can figure out how to do that.
Anyway.
All right. Yeah, I like Elena a lot too. She really had to learn sooner to just put down the goddamn camera.
Oh God. Yeah. That was the worst thing.
Like, fucking, there's guards everywhere, and she's like on top of towers, like, ooh, waving around the camera, taking all this footage, probably talking out loud so that it would pick her up and stuff. What was that?
So the funniest part was the physics of the camera. Like, it just looked like it weighed nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like a piece of foam.
But it was huge.
Yeah, it was a big filmmaker camera. And she's just not letting it go until she absolutely has to, or else she's going to die.
To put this into perspective, that scene where she's about to fall off a cliff and Nate has her by the hand and she has the camera on the other hand, and the only way to climb up is to use her other hand. And she's like, no, I don't want to use my other hand to save my life. I want to save the camera. And then eventually drops it because she's like, yeah, I got to live.
And then she just
Drake says you have to let it go, and her response is to let it go and say, damn it.
Yeah.
And then after that, Drake's like, I'm sorry about your story. She's like, oh, there'll be another story. It's like, why were you holding on to it then?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a very fast turnover of acceptance, I guess. Grief. She grieved and then she accepted. Yeah. It's better than my life. Which it fucking is.
Paparazzi ever.
Yeah. Let's talk about the villains and really just how we had Eddie Raja, who was really a humorous villain, in my opinion. We had the guy that shot Sully at the beginning, Gabriel Roman, and then we had Navarro, who was just his sidekick, I guess.
But who actually secretly knew everything that was going on.
Yeah, like that bait and switch towards the end, where they have El Dorado. So we haven't gone into the driving force of the plot. The treasure that they were after was El Dorado. They thought was a city of gold, but they found out it was just a very large golden idol.
Yeah, I think it apparently means man of gold, not city of gold.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It just very large gold idol. At the end, they find the idol. Navarro lets Roman open it, and surprise, it's cursed.
It's like a coffin, and there's a weird like
decaying corpse.
Yeah, it looks like almost one of those black what are they called? Fuck. From Resident Evil 4. You know what I'm talking about. The things you have to kill. You have to the black things in like the fourth. I don't know.
The regenerators?
Whatever. Yes, the regenerators.
Those are fucking terrifying.
Exactly.
They're so scary. I mean, it's just like a decaying corpse, but it's cursed. The whole thing is cursed, and takes over Roman, who becomes a like weird zombie monster thing, and Navarro just shoots him in the head and he's dead. And Navarro is like, surprise bitches, I'm the main villain now for all of the remaining 10 minutes that this game is.
Keep in mind at this point you've already been fighting a bunch of random zombies.
Yeah. So we find out that this who was originally going after this treasure, like after the Spaniards and Sir Francis Drake, was the Nazis. Because early on, that U-boat that you go into was a German U-boat. It was a Nazi U-boat, and that was in I think you said it, Panama, and this remote island that they went to was invaded by a bunch of Nazis trying to get this treasure. They all got infected by this curse, and you fight these weird zombie monster things.
Yeah, Hitler, fun fact, was really into the occult. So like Indiana Jones, Uncharted, when this is actually somewhat based off of history, because Hitler actually did send out people to fucking search for this shit.
Yeah.
He sent out Navarro.
oh, well, I don't know about Navarro.
No. I'm making
a
joke. Because he essentially wanted the treasure just to sell it as like a weapon of mass destruction. Yeah. That was his only motivation.
His whole rationale was, you know what this is worth to the right buyer.
Basically, Nathan Drake they find Sir Francis Drake's corpse, and they discover, based on like with a note on him, that he basically blew the entire colony and all the ships up to prevent the idol from leaving the island.
Yeah, he wanted to prevent...
And resigned himself to death.
He wanted to prevent this from spreading all over the world. He wanted to keep it secluded. No matter how beautiful of an idol it was cursed. So, the Nazis, you fight a bunch of Nazi... Was this the first game to have Nazi zombies?
I think there had been Call of Duty with it beforehand.
Nah, Call of Duty started it with Black Ops. That wasn't until
Black Ops?
I think that was 2010. I think Uncharted is the first sighting of Nazi zombies.
Didn't World at War have?
That was way after.
But that was 2008.
Oh, okay.
So I guess same year. Ooh, depending on the release dates. Uncharted might have been only a couple days early.
Wait, World at War was before Black Ops?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't played Call of Duty in a long time.
It's all right. I haven't played either of those Call of Duty games.
I haven't played since like Call of Duty 2.
Wow. Oh, that's okay. So anyway, back to Uncharted. Yeah. So how do we feel about the not much of a focus on villains in general, or not a specific any one villain?
I'm usually okay with that, except they all had a similar motivation, which was, we're all going after the treasure and like, let's do it together. But like, I'm actually betraying you to get it. Like, they were just using each other. Like, Gabriel was like, I'm the old white guy. I'm going to take these like people of color and, make them think that they're my lackeys. And then Navarro's just like, yeah, nope. And Eddie, I forgot how. He wound up leaving that threesome because he sorry.
They weren't including him enough, and he got bored.
Well, no.
He was jealous. He was jealous.
Roman set him out to kill Nate or whatever, and Eddie didn't succeed, and came back reporting that like other things are killing their men. And Roman was just like, yeah, you didn't do what you needed to do. And so then Eddie pulls out a gun on him, and Navarro was like, it's not worth it. And Eddie runs away, and that's it.
Well, you have that last stand with Nate and Eddie fighting off the zombies, and the zombies are what took out Eddie.
Yeah.
Which I wish we had more time with Eddie. Eddie was he was a villain.
But he was the fun villain.
He was the fun villain. He was
Yeah.
really funny. He was really entertaining.
Yeah, he was provocative.
In most of the scenes that he showed up in. And Nate and him clearly had a history together, which we've never, it has never really been explored in any other Uncharted game, which is a shame because he was. Nate has a lot of history with a lot of characters all throughout the series, and he would have been one that I'd be really interested to learn more about.
I feel like you learn about that in a note somewhere,
Yeah,
like that
maybe.
they were friends or something like that.
Maybe.
Not even in Uncharted, in like Uncharted 4.
Yeah,
I think
like
they had a note like
would have had
that.
to been to a different. Would have had to have been a different one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Eddie, best villain. All other villains suck. No one had a focus. That's pretty much my stance on that. Unless we want to count the Nazis as villains. Well, the Nazis are always villains. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
The Nazis are more kind of the part of the mystery.
Yeah.
Like that's the real fun, I think, of the story of this game. It's more driven by plot, and the unraveling of the mystery is kind of where at least I felt like it was trying to focus. And when you focus on that, you'll have more fun. Yeah, don't pretend like you're gonna get some sort of fulfillment or catharsis out of great character arcs from these villains.
Yeah. So it's been brought up a couple times so far this episode, and we're recording this on Thursday, so it was on Sunday that I watched this for the first time since I was like a kid. This game, in like plot and characterization, so much, this game has so much in common with Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Down to like the villains getting killed by the treasure.
And like not even just that, but the an involvement with Nazis in some capacity. There not being a specific villain to focus on. Obviously the treasure hunting aspect. It's the influence is it's really laid on thick. I didn't realize it until after rewatching that movie, but it really is just obvious how much they were influenced. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to bring that up. If you guys have any more to speak to that, you can. Otherwise, we can move on.
I didn't even see that movie. You told me to. I didn't.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
If this was a film podcast, I would argue about the defined villain in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it's not. But I would agree.
What, the defined villain is Hitler?
No. The defined villain is shit. The doctor's name, I forget what his name is.
The museum.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
No. The guy,
the French guy.
You know who? Yeah, the French guy. Yeah.
I would argue against that, but we don't have to.
This isn't a movie podcast.
Too into the weeds on that. I still rest my case. It's very, very influenced by that movie, especially. And yeah, that's all about that. What I really want to talk about a lot is this game came out almost 12 years ago. As of this recording, 11 and a half years earlier. How has it aged?
Not good.
Yeah, and I kind of want to delve into certain aspects, like certain points that we can talk about aging, because some have definitely aged better than others. Most of them have not aged too well. I think what's aged probably the poorest, and this is even none of us even went back and played the original PS3 version. We all, out of convenience, played the Nathan Drake collection version.
Yes.
Even then, with the touch ups to 1080p, any other graphical touch ups they did, graphically, it's not a stunner.
It's not even just that it's not a stunner. Some of the explosion effects, some of the textures, particularly like when you get a big vista shot of water and you can tell it's just the same tile repeated over and over again. Some of it just looks like straight up like a PS2 game.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would still say it definitely is an early relic of the PS3.
Yeah. They were getting used to the cell processor.
And let's not forget, because of that cell processor, the PS3 was infamously difficult to develop for.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, when you're in a more enclosed space in the game, or when you're in, say, a jungle environment, or like that cliffside vista overlooking the Nazi U-boat, things tend to look a lot better.
Yeah.
It's really more when you reach those cutscenes where like you're off the coast of the island or something, or like that intro scene where you're in the middle of the sea and you're surrounded by boat. That shit tends to look pretty bad.
The scene that always gets me, that always just every time I see it, it just looks so gross and bad, is the scene where they have to escape the plane because they're getting hit by the anti-aircraft gun. Elaine has already jumped off. Nate's, he's crawling out trying to leave, and he goes to put on the parachute, and him putting the strap of the parachute pack around his arm always looks so unnatural and bad. It's like the one scene that every time I see it, it just never looks good. It has never looked good to me.
The same with like the ragdoll physics when you die. I got stuck for like 15 minutes just killing myself on a platforming segment over and over again, just because the ragdoll physics when you fell were fucking hilarious. Like, it was one of the most entertaining moments I had in the game, just watching the way your body falls. It was funny too because it was in that bunker segment towards the end of the game, and I thought you initially jump out the window and you're supposed to climb up,
right?
But I initially thought you were supposed to go down, and it looked like you could just safely drop down. And I would drop down like 2 feet and just like start tumbling all over. Like, it just looked so fucking weird.
It looked funny when you died from an explosion. You would like fly across the map.
Yeah.
I feel like, all things considered, it does have some pretty scenes, right? Even though it's not graphically impressive.
Right.
And I still felt that even playing it in 2019. But the facial animations, I think for its time, are pretty freaking impressive. Like, I could think of some games that came out in 2017, 2018, Mass Effect.
I was about to say that.
That, like that, I feel like Uncharted Drake's Fortune probably did a better job than that.
Yes.
The facial expressions seem realistic.
And not to knock down the studio whose name I will not mention about a game that was just mentioned. Naughty Dog does have some top talent in terms of who they have developing, but also who they had cast as actors. And I know I spent a good bit talking about how I felt that a lot of the acting early on in the game was really wooden and unnatural. But like I said, it does pick up a few chapters into the game, gets a lot better. And I absolutely agree that a lot of the, like, for that time, for 2007, especially with Naughty Dog's first foray into motion capture and facial capture, they did a pretty phenomenal job. And it only went uphill from there.
Yeah, they were lucky to have had so much experience with the Jack trilogy under their belt. Because when you go back and look at the Jack games as well, the character animations even though it was a more cartoony style,
And it was
still pretty fucking good.
It was entirely hand animated and everything. Uh, so it was really impressive that of how good a lot of those animations were to all be to not have any outside forces, any acting forces acting on them. So yeah, I agree. Basically, is what I'm trying to get at. But it does I also agree. It does have some beautiful scenes. It does have some beautiful vistas. It's just a lot. It's like a texture thing. It's a lighting thing. You can definitely tell it's you can definitely tell it was an early HD era game.
Mm-hmm.
And hasn't aged the best graphically. That I'll never get over that parachute pack scene. I will every time I see it. I can't stand it.
You say that this is the poorest. In my opinion, what we're going to talk about next is the poorest, which is the gunplay.
The gunplay is the poorest.
Yeah. This is by far the worst part of the game is the actual combat.
The worst part of the game is the majority of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said to you guys in chat, this is if you were to imagine a run through where you were able to get through every combat section without dying, and you were just running and gunning straight through, killing all your enemies and getting where you needed to go. This game might actually be like only 4 or 5 hours long.
Right.
It's literally padded out to be twice as long by the I would say artificial difficulty in some instances, like for instance the way enemies are spawned or the way the cover system works. I know it's been updated a bit, but it's even then it still feels between the stickiness of the cover mechanics. The ammo economy is just completely fucked. Enemies will spawn behind you. I don't know if I already said that.
No.
You guys can probably talk even more about the difficulty just because I played on normal. You guys played on brutal. So
I played on crushing.
And
Mark played on brutal.
I played on brutal because I'm a masochist.
Go ahead.
With the artificial padding, I do kind of agree, especially because I went ahead and I did all the other trophies that were involved in the game, the speedrunning trophies included, trying to get through a lot of those chapters as fast as possible. You really see the padding that way because chapter 4 especially, you go from combat encounter, you climb up a pillar, you go over a gate, another combat encounter, you go finish that, go through another gate, another combat encounter.
You'll run around a corner and just get hit by a grenade out of nowhere and die. Like
yeah.
Like that chapter has no less than 10 different combat encounters. The most egregious one is when you get to the large area with the plane still stuck in the tree.
Yes.
You kill a fuck ton of dudes. Then a few more dudes show up. Then you're able to climb the rope, find out that Elena's alive, and then you climb down the rope, and then a fuck ton of other dudes on the other side of the arena show up, and you kill them after they keep spawning for a while, and then behind you a fuck ton of other dudes show up. It's just so padded out with dudes just coming out of nowhere from all angles. And one of the most imbalanced and unfair fights is I think it's chapter 12, 11 maybe. It's the one that's titled Trapped.
Yeah.
You go into that big circular library and they just come from all angles. They just come from all over the place.
That and the one where you're in like the underground sewer type thing and there's a bunch of pillars. You drop down, you're getting shot up from above, from behind the pillars, and while you're fighting, guys spawn from where you came from. So you're just getting shot at from all sides no matter where you take cover.
And a lot of these fights, especially, like, I'm sure it was the same for you on Crushing Delaila, like, it was a lot of deaths and lots of trial and error to try and find, like, the best place to go right as the next spawn wave happened so that you wouldn't immediately die.
Yes. I think because when I first played Uncharted, the trapped level was one of the ones I was stuck in the most. I kind of mastered it even in 2019, but the very end where you have the 3 snipers and a bunch of like shotgun dudes and maybe even a guy with a grenade launcher. I think it was like one of the last fighting sequences before you fight Navarro.
With Sully.
Yeah, with
that was probably
Sully.
that was probably the church.
Yeah, the
it's,
church.
It's right outside the church, yeah.
The church. When I played the original on PS3 for the first time on Crushing, trying to get through, and I want to talk about cover right after this because there's a bit of a cover exploit that I didn't know about until now that made everything so much easier. But I was playing through that second church sequence years and years and years ago, and I got so mad trying to get through that area. Out of the ultimate gamer rage, I bit my controller.
Wow.
Like, I just kept dying, and I was getting so frustrated that I just bit my controller. It's a bit of an embarrassing story that I love telling anyway.
I'm just thinking of it. I'm going to fall asleep to that tonight.
But the cover that plays a lot into with the gunplay. You attach yourself to cover, you peek out around corners. On Brutal, you basically cannot play that way because you will just die in one shot. You'll peek out of cover before you can even start aiming. You get shot and you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you die in one shot on normal. And I mean, to be fair, it's usually the guys with the laser sights.
Yeah,
But if you're playing cover, they have their lasers hovering right over you. So once you peek out, you get shot.
Yeah, this is
which
like,
means you basically got a running gun.
This is normal ass bullets. One shot, you're dead. They just have
so
most
pinpoint
accuracy.
Yeah, as soon as you pop your head out of cover, you're on gray, if not dead. On Crushing, you're on gray, not dead. I'm sure on Brutal, you're just straight up dead.
Oh
but
my God, yeah.
The thing is, like, you have to, because the enemies on harder difficulty move in faster, they're constantly throwing grenades, and then you still have like the snipers and the grenade launchers to worry about. So the idea is that you have to like shoot from the hip while behind cover. And that's it. I shot from the hip more than I actually aimed in this game.
I just never attached myself to cover. The cover exploit being that you don't attach to cover. You do over the shoulder aiming while hiding behind obstacles, and like you just get right around the corner. They'll still be shooting the obstacle, but you can shoot them. And that was like the only way you could get through. It was like the only way I could get through Brutal. And I'm not sure how anybody can get through that difficulty the way that the game is intended to be played.
And I don't understand why you can hold so little ammo. That was another thing that bugged me throughout the entire game.
I mean, Drake only has so many pockets, man.
Dude, it's a fucking video game. Come on.
Stylized realism, Jason. Stylized realism.
Whatever. I'm just saying that's like 3 magazines. If you're thinking about like the M400, about 100 rounds, 3 magazines. I mean, I guess that makes sense realistically. But still, you run out of that, especially on the harder difficulties,
I think
in like 30 seconds.
I think what's more egregious is how little ammo you get from fallen weapons. I feel like the amount you can hold would be a lot less of an issue if you got more ammo from what you picked up.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, they're trying to incentivize you, I guess, to do those melee combos that yield more ammo, but melee is rendered ineffective even on normal difficulty.
Yeah, it's in this game especially.
Yeah.
The only times I used melee was when somebody bum rushed me behind cover, and they were behind cover, I was behind cover, so as long as no one else was also behind cover with us, I could just melee them to death and eliminate any issues I might have aiming at this person at point blank range and killing them fast enough.
Yeah, but I feel like the melee and even the stealth mechanics became a lot more apparent in the later series, but in this game, especially stealth was
Yeah,
borderline
Well,
useless, and that's a shame.
there wasn't really any stealth.
something
I
to
quit.
add is that stealth didn't exist in the original.
Yeah,
It was
Well, you
something they
could
added as an updated mechanic for the Nathan Drake collection.
really?
Yeah.
Why did I could have I mean, I guess it's been so long, I just assumed they all had it, but
No, yeah. The
Mm,
stealth was not a thing in the original. At least not the way that we knew it from Uncharted 2, because it was a pretty core
yeah.
mechanic in Uncharted 2.
well, yeah, totally, but you could still stealth kill people. Like if they weren't paying attention, you press the triangle button
It
and then you
was
just put
it
them in a
was really
chokehold.
hard. Like I was only able to do it once this my entire run, and I was on normal.
No,
Hmm.
yeah, that's my point. Like the mechanics there,
Yeah,
it's just useless.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Uh, another part of the gunplay that I do sort of want to bring up is I felt like I always this was the first entry in the series, so it's kind of understandable, but I didn't quite realize just how limited the gun variety and weapon variety was in this one.
Yeah,
You only I want to say you get a max of 10 different guns to use in the game, and I felt like that is a pretty low variety. You get like and most of them I think are handguns.
Yeah, it was like three different handguns. A little more than 10, I think.
11
Is it
weapons.
11
Yeah.
weapons?
If you include the MP40.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot all about the MP40. Yeah, so that 11 weapons. I still feel like that's a pretty limited roster.
Yeah.
Uh, plus I guess part of why I forgot about the MP40 was I hated the MP40.
See, I actually liked it because it was somewhat powerful.
Hmm.
I liked it too, except you only get 3 bullets. That kind of stuff. Or three
Mags.
explodey
Magazines.
things. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. You're thinking of the M79. That's the grenade launcher.
Oh, okay. Both of them had very limited
The
ammo.
the MP40 the MP40 is the machine gun you get in the
It's the German. It's the German.
yeah, that thing just with the amount of Nazi zombies they're throwing at you, you run out of ammo real fast with that thing.
Yeah.
Um yeah, that's all I really got. Yeah, I do kind of agree the gunplay hasn't aged too well, but I think most of that has less to do with the gunplay and more to do with the level design. Like
Yes.
we talked about the enemy placements sometimes being unfair, them popping out from like behind you and killing you in 2-3 shots. And with the focus on cover and
There was
cover not
there
even
was
being the
way
most
too much
effective
shit.
thing.
There was just way too much shit thrown around in the levels. And so whenever you tried to roll and dodge an attack or a grenade, you would accidentally get stuck to something and then get shot with one shotgun blast and die. Like I can't count how many times that happened to me.
Yeah. Other mechanics though, and I don't know, you guys might not even remember that this was in the original because they got rid of it in the Nathan Drake collection, thank God. But remember the 6-axis controller?
Barely.
And how
I remember it did something.
well with the PlayStation 3, part of what they introduced with the controller, because the controller for PlayStation 3 wasn't originally the DualShock 3, it was the 6-axis.
I remember like Warhawk, like you control the aerial, the airplane with the motion controls on the
Yeah.
controller.
Well,
Yeah,
part of what was in the original Uncharted was of course, some forced 6-axis integration. Some of those logs and narrow things you'd be walking on, suddenly Drake would
Mm.
lose his balance and you'd have to
Oh,
balance him with the
yeah.
controller.
It felt so much better playing this version. I forgot about that.
Thank fucking God they didn't keep that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm playing through just for shits and giggles, I'm playing through Golden Abyss on Vita
Oh.
because I haven't played through it in God knows how long. And that's still a thing in that game, even though that game came out after like the original Uncharted trilogy, and even by like 2, they phased out any weird motion control-y stuff. But this game made sure to keep that whole you're going over a log, Nate loses his balance, you got to balance him. by tilting your, not even your controller at this point, your entire system. It's just so goofy. So thank God that's gone in the Nathan J collection.
Yeah. I'm crying inside. I wish I could play my Vita, but my dog chewed it up. Quite literally.
That sucks.
That's a bummer. Rip the Vita.
Yeah.
In more ways than just that way.
Nah.
Yeah.
I think the Uncharted, a lot of Uncharted is not just gameplay. That's really or gunplay, I should say. The gunplay is half of it. The climbing is the other half. And I still think a lot of the climbing was fine.
Yeah, it was just the only problem I had was the vines where you had to swing back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Because half the time it wouldn't register when I hit X. Like it would register it, but it wouldn't register it until it was too late, and then I would just like drop off and die, even though I was literally all the way up to the edge of the fucking ledge I was trying to jump to.
Yeah.
It was just infuriating.
I think there's a couple sections in the game where it's not totally obvious how you're supposed to traverse an area, and like what might seem obvious to one person, to me, I'm just like, I got to jump to that ledge, right? And then I try jumping to that ledge, and it doesn't work, and I'm like, okay, that's not the ledge I need to jump to. Okay, what am I missing here? There are a couple sections in the game like that I just totally forgot exactly how you're supposed to traverse.
Yeah.
Certain areas, and sometimes what they do is they sort of paint ledges and paths a different color. They do it in a natural way, so it's not obvious. Like it's not like yellow paint on rocks or something. It's like a white ashen deterioration.
But there are times where you kind of just have to move the analog stick and see if Drake reaches out, and then trust that when you jump off, you'll hit something.
Which is,
but even then, sometimes you would wind up jumping back instead of to the ledge.
Yeah,
it's like it's a good design way of integrating, the path into the gameplay. It works. It doesn't always work well in this game.
I felt like the platforming though was one of the more enjoyable aspects of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree.
That and the puzzles, although not nearly as complex as some of the ones we would see later down the line in the series.
I thought there would be I thought there were more puzzles in this game than there actually really are.
Yeah,
there's really not that many.
There's like 3.
Yeah, and they're not very, like you said, they're not very complex, they're not very complicated. They don't take much time to figure out. And really, like, the earliest puzzle I can think of is when you go into that underground like tomb with Sully, and you have to press like the 4 panels in the right order, which really wasn't really a puzzle. It was more of a chore.
Yeah, every puzzle quote unquote is like, look at the notebook, okay, match the image with the number or the name, and then do it accordingly, and that's it. There was really nothing else to that.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a very linear series overall.
Yeah.
But I always wanted like a bit of a game with a bit of a more open dungeon quote unquote design, where you're kind of exploring these lost temples, cities, what have you, caverns, and like it could actually really be like Indiana Jones, where you accidentally trigger a fucking giant rock to fall down and you got to run and figure out a way to dodge it, or you could accidentally trigger you fucking blow darts to come out of the wall. There is the one scene where the rocks fall down one by one. I
was about to bring up.
But it was like the one thing I'm talking about, like a game where you don't even necessarily find those sections, and maybe there's another treasure, a small thing or a small clue that you find in another room that you don't necessarily have to go to. I don't know. I felt like more puzzles and more exploring. Again, as a history nerd and
really
an Indiana Jones nerd.
Really what you want is like the Legend of Uncharted.
Basically, yeah.
Ocarina of Drake.
Actually, you pretty much hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
But that's what I want. It's not what the game is.
Just play Shadow of the Tomb Raider. That had a lot of dungeons and
Yeah,
caves.
I remember.
Delaila, that's just a rip-off of Uncharted.
I played the first Tomb Raider in that reboot series, and I do remember it had a lot of puzzles, and it was pretty fun. I didn't play any of the subsequent ones.
No, the Shadow of the Tomb Raider was more focused on dungeons than it was on anything else. More so than its previous games.
I love how we're calling them dungeons in this case and not tombs.
Yeah, tombs, caves, whatever. Because he said dungeons, so just for point of comparison.
I gotcha.
But no, yeah, Uncharted is just better than Tomb Raider because they actually have personalities. But
shots fired.
Shots fired. Jinx.
Speaking of shots fired,
some salt delivered to Eidos Square Enix.
Eidos Montreal?
No, Square Enix. Well, yes, Eidos Montreal, but they're owned by Square Enix.
So, speaking of shots fired, though, I wanted to bring up this anecdote that was kind of brought up recently regarding Nate getting shot at and it just being gray, and then suddenly he's dead. And how they explain that from like a lore perspective is.
A lore perspective.
From a lore perspective, from a design perspective, whatever you want to call it, it's like he's not getting shot. His luck is running out until he gets that one fatal blow. Which I think is a cute.
I remember hearing that.
Yeah, it's a cute, fun way of explaining it, because if anyone actually physically got shot nearly as much as Nathan Drake does, there's no way he'd be able to do all the climbing shit that he's able to pull off.
Or your enemies.
Yeah.
Your enemies take a lot of hits.
Yeah, they do.
Oh yeah.
And something I would definitely talk about if we went into any future game in the series. It's not really prevalent in this game. Is the ludonarrative dissonance of Drake just slaughtering a bunch of dudes, which again did not remember all that also being in Indiana Jones or Raiders of the Lost Ark. A lot of people die in that movie.
Yeah.
And just nothing is thought of it.
Dude, you should watch.
There were some brutal
You ever
deaths
watch
in
The
that
Last
movie.
Crusade?
No.
Oh, dude, you gotta watch The Last Crusade is the best one.
All right.
And it has Sean Connery in it. Add that. That's another movie.
9.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring up that. Really, we've covered all we've covered every aspect of the game. The game as a whole, we feel it hasn't aged the best.
No.
I was mentioning to you guys before that I've always viewed this game as a fantastic proof of concept with a less than stellar execution.
Yes.
Which is kind of
Agreed.
That's kind of a first for Naughty Dog. Since they became popular, with Crash. Crash 1 was a breakout hit. And the following games, only boosted from there. Jak and Daxter 1, breakout
I would
hit,
argue,
well received.
I would argue Precursor Legacy, at least from my experience, what I remember playing of it, I would argue a very similar proof of concept, less than stellar execution. Because it's not, I don't remember, at least from what I remember, it was not nearly as good as Jak 2 or 3.
Well, they went in a drastically different direction with that series.
Right. Because Jak 1, from what I remember, wasn't bad. It just wasn't that great.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that one, buddy. But we're here to talk about Uncharted.
Yes.
Which I still good proof of concept, not so great execution. I think we can kind of agree there.
Quick question. Did any of you guys have the issue where your game kept crashing?
No.
I didn't have any issues with crashing.
Mine crashed every 2 seconds. If you watch one of my streams, you'll see what I'm
Delaila,
talking about.
I think you need to get your PS4 looked at. I feel like you always have the weird crashing issues and and problems?
I don't know. I thought it was because I upgraded to SSD, but then when I was looking into it, that wasn't. I don't know. They said it was just an issue with Uncharted, not the other ones in the
Oh,
Nathan Drake
okay.
collection. And this made playing this game a lot harder for me
Wait,
because
do you have a pro or a regular one?
a pro.
Okay. I was gonna be like, how the fuck are you upgrading and shit? Like I wanna upgrade my PS4. What the fuck?
Yeah, that made it really annoying, and it seems to be like a common issue. So if anyone that could do anything about that is listening to this podcast, please fix it.
Just do it, please,
Yeah.
for me.
Exactly.
Do we have any other final thoughts before I pose the final question?
No, I think we covered the game. We shit on this game enough. Let's give it a rest.
We
I think
shit on this game enough.
I think
I should note that I genuinely love this game.
Yeah, no. That's what I was about to say was as much as we shit on this game, I will still say the story is fun, even though it's light, even though it's short. The story is fun, and it's a great basis for where it goes. And I think it's well worth it to play through all 4 games.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would agree. Oh, one thing I did kind of forget to mention, the main collectible is these random treasures just hidden throughout the areas.
Yeah.
None of them are really of note, save for one, which is a reference to
Jack and Daxter.
Jack and Daxter. It is the strange relic, which is a collectible that's actually found in every Uncharted game.
Yeah.
There's a couple of references, like the brand, I think, for the scuba gear that they're wearing is called Otzel, which is the animal that Daxter is turned into.
Naughty Dog does, like, even in games to come from there, like they constantly reference their past, and the wetsuit brand is Otzel. You're correct about that. And we get the strange relic collectible, which is a precursor orb from Jack and Daxter. They're very, very open about their past and their history. The collectibles, some of them are, or the treasures, I should say, some of them are well hidden, like stupidly well hidden. Some of them are hidden in plain sight, and I don't know how I missed a lot of them.
Yeah, totally. We didn't really talk about the last boss either. Like that fight.
What boss? There's no boss to talk about.
Yeah, it's not even really a boss. It's literally you just dodge the main bad guy, or not even the main bad. Navarro. Navarro is invincible and he shoots at you. You just gotta not get hit by Navarro and kill everybody else.
And then he runs away.
And eventually you reach a cutscene where you save Elena and you push a helicopter. You push the chopper off the side of the boat. And the rope gets caught around Navarro, and he gets dragged to the bottom of the sea along with the idol. Yeah, and that's the end.
Really, the final boss is like, other than fighting those waves of dudes, like 3 waves of dudes as you move forward. There is one more thing I do want to bring up after this. You fight those waves of dudes, and then the boss fight is just QTEs.
Yeah,
yes.
You dodge behind cover, you time it, you dodge again. And then you attack him, and then there's some QTEs, and then you have to punch him again, and then it ends.
It kind of blows.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because I thought that was underwhelming.
Good point. Thank you.
This was the era. You gotta put yourself back in that time period. This was a few years after RE4 had come out. And everybody was fucking hyped on QTEs, but we were just at this point that this game came out. We were just reaching that point where everybody was kind of like at the zenith of, okay, now this shit's getting a little old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were others sprinkled throughout the game, just random ones. And
yeah, they came out of nowhere too.
Yeah, QTEs are not great. Thank you for bringing up that fight. I guess it's kind of a testament to how forgettable that final boss is, as I didn't even remember that maybe we should talk about it.
Yeah.
It's just not memorable. It's really disappointing. and definitely ends on a low point, save for like the narrative of Sully coming to swinging by to get Nate and Elena, and he's got a pile full of gold. Made it off that pirate island, and he's got his debts paid off, probably.
Yeah.
And, we share that lovey-dovey moment between Nate and Elena on the
They
boat.
don't even kiss, though. I remember them kissing.
No, they go to kiss, and then Sully interrupts them.
No, yeah, but they don't actually get to kiss afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
all
want
right.
them to kiss.
Why,
That's
Jason?
Because I'm a romantic. I like
Really?
romance. I'm actually not even joking. I love romance.
Oh, this is
Wow.
I love West Side Story. I love Phantom of the Opera. I'm not even joking.
This is a sweet moment.
I know every word of every song of West Side Story.
Wow.
Look at you, so cute.
Wow.
The other thing I wanted to bring
Fun
up,
fact.
like doubling back to the difficulty a bit, Delaila, how many times did you fucking die during that final chapter with that container that gets exploded and you have the QTE? You roll out, and before you can get into cover, dudes just start shooting at you?
Yeah, but you mean the very last QTE
Yeah.
sequence? Oh, well, the QTE was fine, but then you have to go up to him and hit him again.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the right before that, where you still have to fight a wave of dudes, but that container gets blowed up. Jesus Christ. Gets blown up. You have the QTE
That
to
container
dodge it.
there gets blowed up by the Navarro figure.
You gotta dodge that container, and you roll out, and then a bunch of dudes just start immediately shooting at you. And on the harder difficulties, you just immediately die.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that, surprisingly.
Oh, I died probably 10 times in a row on Brutal because you're given no time to react.
Wow, you can't even, like, no time to go behind cover?
It's pure luck that you get a spawn that doesn't immediately kill you.
Ew.
God, everybody in the comments is just gonna call us bitches because that's all we're doing is complaining how fucking hard it is.
Because it's not a it's a very
It is.
imperfect
It
game.
is though.
They're
And-
freaking bullet sponges. They hurt. Like,
Yeah,
I think it's like the hardest Uncharted game.
Yeah, it definitely is the hardest
Not
Uncharted
not
game.
out of even design. Well, yes, partially design, but more so just the clunky nature of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, I think now we can move on to the final question, and I think I know the answer that everyone's got to this
Mm-hmm.
to this question, but just say where it ranks. Don't say anything about the other games because obviously you don't want to spoil them. But where does this game rank amongst the 4 main games?
It's the worst one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see if we were all on the same page with that.
Just to put it out there, IMO. I think the series in terms of rank, they rank progressively better. So each one gets better than the last.
Really? So
Yeah.
your rank is like 1, 2, 3, 4 in ascending order?
Basically.
I think an argument could be made between 2 and 3 swapping, but
That
for the
would-
most part,
that would be
I
mine.
agree with that.
I like 3 better than 2, but that's IMO.
Okay.
I like 3 story better. Like I like the adventure that we're on better than 2. It's the same reason why I don't like Indiana Jones 2 that much. It's because
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of. I'm not really interested in the story that they're on. Whereas in the last one, they're going after the Holy Grail. Sean Connery's in there. It's not that Indiana Jones 2 is bad.
The last
Yeah.
one, the last
actually
one
a
would
good
be
movie.
the last one would be Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
No, it doesn't exist.
That's-
What are you
11.
talking about? There is, dude. There's only 3 Indiana Jones movies.
Well, this wasn't Indiana.
I don't know what you're talking. La 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 la.
This wasn't Indiana Jones. This was Uncharted: Drake's Fortune that we just
Yes.
spoiled and bitched about for a little
By
over
the way,
an hour.
we just added 2 more movies to the count.
Yes, I've been counting. The audience will hear.
God. Well, that was Uncharted: Drake's Fortune. I hope you guys enjoyed it a little more than we did, you fellow listeners. Tell us how you feel about the game. Comment on the YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, comment on the YouTube video. If you liked this, give it a like. If you liked us, give it a subscribe. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. All this stuff is
God,
just
be
ridiculous.
a bit more
to me.
energetic, Mark. Come on.
Yeah, I'm tired, man.
Pump it up.
If you
Come on.
if you listened on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify, I don't know if Spotify has a rating system for podcasts, but I know iTunes and Google Play do. So please rate and review us. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you didn't like. Subscribe to the podcast. Join the Facebook group.
Subscribe to
us.
Dead Cell Media.
Subscribe to Dead Cell Media. Follow us on Twitter.
Speaking of Dead Cell.
Oh, that's a good point. I was going to wait till the very end to announce our next game, but I'll announce it right now. Speaking of Dead Cell Media, you're going to get a special treat next month because we're doing our next month's episode, July's episode, on the game that we're named after, Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty.
Yay.
Which is so exciting. I love that game. That game means a whole lot to me. I've written essays for school on that game. I have read a lot about that game. I love that game. So
The name's Pliskin.
So I also kind of want to start naming off where you can obtain and play the game. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty, you can get on like so many systems. You can get it on PS2, you can get it on original Xbox, you can get it on PS3, Xbox 360. It might be backwards compatible on Xbox One. I'm not sure about that. Might even, I think the HD collection from Metal Gear Solid is available on PlayStation Now if you have a PS4 and you like PlayStation Now for some reason. If you have a Vita, you can play it on Vita.
Wow. You
Can
know
you
this
play
off
it
the
on
top of
Vita?
your head?
I do, because I own most of these copies.
Wow.
So yeah, and you can play any version. It doesn't really matter if you play Sons of Liberty or Substance. Substance adds some gameplay tweaks and some more additional bonus content, but the game itself is still relatively the same. So if you don't own it, pick it up. You could probably get a copy of it somewhere cheap or buy it digitally for cheap. Play the game. Follow us next month. Listen to the episode. I'm going to have nothing but good things to say about that video game, so stay tuned.
And I would just grab a physical copy of the Metal Gear Solid collection for posterity's sake, because who knows when Konami, if they'll ever bring that shit back.
Really, the best way to enjoy Metal Gear in its entirety is to get the Legacy Collection for PS3. If you get that brand new, it'll have the digital code for Metal Gear Solid 1 as a PS1 digital game. And it has everything else on discs.
It has Metal Gear 1 and 2 for the NES.
Yeah,
Wait, was it NES or
no,
SNES? I don't remember.
So the original Metal Gear was released on the NES, but it was a really bad port, and it wasn't really the same as the MSX version. Yeah. This has like emulated MSX original versions of the game, and those are included in Metal Gear Solid 3. I love Metal Gear. I know way too much about it. But man, I'm excited. That episode's going to be great. So subscribe to the podcast, and you'll get that episode right when it comes out. This has been a Dead Cell Media production of Reap the Spoils. I didn't say Twitter handle, so you can follow Dead Cell Media at Dead Cell Media. You can follow me at Nibelheimian. You can follow Delaila at Assassina_San. And you can follow Jason at Garbage at the Dumpster, because fuck Jason. He doesn't use Twitter. Just kidding. You can follow him at Solid Quaz.
I'm hurt.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Last week is gone.
I'm going to retreat to my safe space. I will see y'all next month when we fucking praise.
You got it.
I'm trying to look for the word praise. Metal Gear Solid 2.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.